From meeting Elon and talking to him about Vine, it's very clear that he loves Vine. My vision is really to anticipate and to see the revival of Vine. And I think now is a really great time, especially in the face of large platforms like TikTok and national security concerns and concerns around its impact on the youth's mental health, creating opportunities for creators to jump in, start making video content for the first time, and becoming known for their creativity, for their performance, for their talents. The coin was not planned weeks in advance. It came together pretty spontaneously. It came shortly after Elon hinted about possibly reviving Vine, right? We're looking into it. When those two forces join, it seems like the movement is unstoppable.
Are you taking advantage of us? Is this another one of those things? Are we idiots again? So the hope here is to answer those questions and for people to be able to make those informed decisions accordingly. What prompted the launch of Vinecoin and how exactly did it happen? Like, were you sitting there on Pump.fun, filling in the details and launching it? What was the process like? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So as I was thinking about launching the coin, I learned about a really ugly website called Pump.fun. People started reaching out to me. Oh, is this really yours? Are you really doing this? My hope for locking the coins was just to show the community, like, I'm in this for the long run. I will continue locking those tokens until Vine is released. I don't want to get into a legal discussion about trademarks and copyright. I can use the Vine logo. I did. From my conversations with ex-staff,
what happened to your X account after the initial test posts of Vine?
I started noticing issues with my account, and there was definitely an issue, a technical issue. So over the next week, I was working with the X team to remedy the account.
Can you perhaps let me know, like, what was the thinking behind suggesting the Super Bowl ad was there? And specifically, what were you going to advertise if you were able to get the spot?
Wanted to make a 6-second Super Bowl ad, probably one of the shortest Super Bowl ads for Vine and for Vinecoin. And the goal was to help bring everyday Americans into our movement. You claim you're from Kraken, you're asking me to pay some money to get listed. I ignore those. And then, like, okay, 3 days later, it's listed on Kraken. Not involved at all, had nothing to do with it. Yes, I did vote on it. I voted on it before I signed an NDA with Binance.
Okay, got it. Okay, well, wow. Okay, I don't even know how to handle that. Have you met Elon and spoken to him about bringing back Vine?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Today, we are going to be covering a lot of exciting information. My name is Taha Abbasi. If you're tuning in on X or YouTube, make sure to take a moment to like, say in the chat where you're tuning in from, and welcome to the Vine community. A lot of us crypto degens don't realize not everybody spends their time on X Spaces or on Twitter all the time. We have the honor of actually having the Vine co-founder, Russ, joining us here today. And we'll be taking time here today to get some questions answered from him, understand his vision, also understand some of the community concerns and what he plans to do to address them. And then most importantly, understand the vision and the path forward that he is laying out for this movement. I do want to declare that I am a Vine holder, a Vinecoin holder. I also am a passionate advocate for the return of the Vine app. I have a big responsibility, and that is to remain neutral and to bring all perspective. I'm going to first go over the Vine app survival and the Vine coin. Then I'm going to describe some of the bear scenarios and concerns that the community has requested to be addressed. And then finally, I'll highlight some of the things I've noticed with the community. Then I'll bring Russ on board to share his vision. After he articulates his vision and what he's hoping to accomplish. In the AMA, we've categorized our questions that we've gathered from the community. Thank you to all of you community members for sharing that. They've been categorized in a few different distinct categories, which relate to the launch of the coin and related matters, messaging related matters, which includes some of the tweets and Telegram messages that have been shared, questions about the app and its related matters, questions about ex-employees and their engagement and publicly available information, and then we'll close out with the path forward. Once again, the goal here is to provide information. As much as I am a fanboy of the Vine movement, my job here is not to behave as such and to be unbiased. So hopefully you'll judge me with that, and hopefully I'll do a good job for the Vine community here. So without any further ado, I want to kind of get going with what we have found and what Vine is. Let's just take a quick second. If anybody has been living under a rock and doesn't know what the Vine app is, I'll also address the elephant in the room. When I say Vine, you might be hearing the Vine with a W. I'm from Pakistan. Even though English is my second language, I worked very hard to overcome a lot of those accent items. But the V's and W's, man, they stick with me. When I will be saying wine, you can think of a nice glass of wine that you might be drinking. So the Wine app is the app that has revolutionized short form video as we know it. TikTok today, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels would not exist if it wasn't for this magical app that revolutionized this new form of content 6 seconds at a time. And in fact, a lot of the top creators today, a lot of the stars that we even see in movies, if you are a fan of the Logan Paul and the Jake Paul brothers, the recent fight that happened, one of the most televised events, these individuals got their starts from the Wine app, from the days of that amazing short form organic content. And this was created by 3 co-founders, one of whom is Russ, that you're going to get to see today. What's really exciting about this is that started a trajectory of what ended up becoming TikTok today. Before TikTok, it was actually Musical.ly, and it was acquired for $1 billion, and it became what is TikTok today. And current valuation of TikTok is around over $400 billion. So there's immense demand for this category of product, this category of content creation. There are obvious problems with TikTok that relate to mental health. There are issues that are currently happening where its current ban has been only extended or granted for TikTok to operate in the US until April 20th. This ban was extended for 90 days by President Trump on January 20th. So we don't know what is going to be the outcome of TikTok. What we do know is ByteDance, the company that owns it, are not open to selling its algorithm. So if the chance plays out, which seems to be likely, that TikTok is going to go away, that provides an excellent opportunity for X and Twitter to come in and take that market share. And X is really working hard to integrate videos. And there is no name for X short form videos right now. It would be X videos, which is not a great look for branding. So Wine just makes the obvious sense, especially since we look at the next few facts that I'm going to be covering here. On October 28th, 2022, Elon Musk bought Twitter for $44 billion. And 2 days later, he went ahead and conducted a poll. The first order of business was conducting a poll to find out should he bring Wine back. And in that poll, he got 4.9 million votes, indicating 69.6% yes percentage that yes, Wine should be brought back. You may ask, why did he do that poll immediately after acquiring Twitter? Well, a lot of people don't realize that Wine is actually owned by X. And when Elon bought Twitter, he also bought the rights to Wine. He repeated that poll about 2 years later with the same results, indicating that he has a strong sentiment. Now, notice this is a statistical anomaly. Millions of votes being given 2 years apart don't add up to the exact same yes vote. We know Elon likes to joke around and troll, so my speculation here is that he simply has an indication and a likelihood that he wants to bring this back, and hence he's probably working the numbers a little bit. That part is speculation on my part, but that's sort of the thesis that formed the bull case for this. But it added on top of it. So this is before the launch of Vinecoin. We're talking about a year ago. On April 17th, this poll was done. Take a look at this date right here. On April 23rd, 2024, Chris Park, who is an engineer at X, who leads X API and other engineering departments, posted the following message. He posted a message of X TV, which is a reality now, X Payments, which we know X has gotten licenses with Visa and other payment processors to provide, Wine, and X AI. We know Grok has gotten recent updates. So every single one of the products that Chris Park mentioned that are imminent has been released and worked on and progressed and moved forward. The only exception would be to believe that Vine is not coming back. And that seems unlikely. That was at least the thesis that was in my mind and a lot of others' minds when they were looking at the Vine revival movement. Furthermore, after the launch of the Vine coin, there was a lot of excitement, which we'll talk about in a second here. That excitement also re-engaged Chris Park to say, should we do it for the Vine? Internally, we're excited, but it's non-trivial. We need to hear your feedback. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much value would Vine add? So this was done at that specific time. Furthermore, Chris Park was not the only individual tweeting about this. Nate McGrady, who is also an ex-employee, had been tweeting about Vine's revival well before the launch of Vinecoin. If you look on my screen right now, you'll notice December 26th, if Vine comes back. Here's a tweet over here about this, December 2nd, April 17th, what was your favorite wine? He was also posting his own polls March 14, 2024. So this indicates that publicly, even right here when the TikTok ban was announced on April 21st, he posted about wine. This indicates that there is an interest among the ex-employees to bring Vine back, to bring what Vine stood for. Well, it's not just X posts. Another factor to look at are the numbers when Vine returned with the form of Vinecoin, when Russ one of the co-founders of Vine, launched Vinecoin recently, we saw tremendous excitement and we saw record-breaking numbers that I have not yet seen in the history of crypto with any other coin, specifically in the categories that I'm about to mention. So one of the things that I'm about to mention is staying at the market cap that Vine remained at. It was at one point over a 4-hour period, the fourth most shorted coin after ETH, BTC, Doge, and all others, right? So this is a coin that is staying at sub $200, $300 million market cap, shorted at the level of these. BTC was a $1.9 trillion asset, indicated that there's tremendous interest from traders, creators, and community alike. So this all formed the bull case among many other things. And one of the last things I'll mention for the bull case is the community engagement, but we'll come back to that. Let's focus a little bit on the bear case now so that we can balance the scales as to what the concerns of the community are, and we'll dive into them a little bit later. You'll see that there were some misinterpretations from conversations around Super Bowl. I'm not going to just gloss over this. I'm just giving you an overview. There was an app leak or a beta test that was provided. There was a waitlist that was provided. There were some community moderation decisions that were made that were not received well by the community. There was communication frequency that the community did not align with. At least there was a gap in the frequency in which communication is expected in Web3 and crypto versus the Web2 world. And there were some concerns about insider trading. These questions remain unanswered. And what that resulted in is the community essentially having some significant level of infighting and disagreements, forming two segments. I went away for Valentine's Day on a community that was cohesive and moving forward together, where I had good conversations with contributors that are hosting on all sides. I'm not going to go into specific names because I'll definitely miss everyone out, but I want to give a shout out to all the hosts from all sides for volunteering their time and all the community members for listening as well. I came back after Valentine's Day and realized the community had split apart and was disagreeing on some core items. But what I'll end with before we go to the next part of the segment, which is where we'll hear Russ's vision, is this specific chart. This chart is why we are having this conversation. I was making content about Vine, trying to educate people about it. And when I started to notice some concerns come up, I had to take a step back because what I have seen here with this community, look at what's happening. Over the last month, there's been 24/7 spaces nearly, with hundreds of people tuning in live at any given time and thousands listening to the recording. In my time in crypto, this is one of the most engaged communities, right there at the level of communities that trade and build value of coins that surpass billions of dollars and make a lasting impact on movements that relate to and set the ethos of what crypto is all about. This coin was supposed to be that coin, and there are questions yet remaining to be answered that will help determine whether it will surpass any of the previous benchmarks set or if it will be forgotten into the dust. This right here indicates the success of the launch of the Vine coin in terms of community sentiment. As you can see, historically, people wanted to bring Vine back, but the mentions and engagement were kind of stagnated. There was an interest, but there was really no call to action. Around the time of the Vinecoin launch, actually, in fact, over the last year, the interest peaked. But around the time of the Vinecoin launch, the mentions of Vinecoin increased by over 56,000% in those days. This clearly indicates that this mechanism was successful in bringing attention about Vine's revival to the world. Now, were some mistakes made? I think so. Can those be corrected? I hope so. That is what we are here to discuss today. And you are here to form your opinion based on the information that will be provided. I'm going to go ahead and welcome our guest today. Russ, welcome. I know I took a bit of time to give a little bit of a groundwork, but I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself. I want to welcome you to the stream here, and I want to thank you for taking the time to answer the community's questions. Why don't you say hi to everyone watching?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining, and thank you, Taha, for doing this. I really respect your clarity of voice and your authority on the matters at hand, and I'm excited to answer the questions.
No, I'm glad to hear that. And I think I want to kind of let everybody know as well some of the things that sort of lay the foundation of this conversation. Obviously, I have posted my first message with Russ that I reached out to him after I started to see concerns on my content, and I take that responsibility very seriously. That was why I reached out, so I'm glad that you responded back. I was just joking with Russ before this call started that such interesting circumstances to get to know each other. We're trying to get messaging and clarity out, obviously, about what's going on. I also want to clarify that while I do know some information that is going to be be discussed in the point of discussion. We've tried to limit it as much as possible. So I genuinely, for I would say about 90% of the questions being asked, I do not know the answers to that. I told Russ specifically I do not want to know the answers to that over our private phone calls, because I don't want to instigate the same things that we fight against, the same insider trading and manipulation with privileged information. I do not want to know those answers. And I think it'll be refreshing masterclass of transparency is what my hope is. And I hope it sets a benchmark for other crypto founders about how you should be launching coins and how you should be correcting mistakes when those are made, owning up to them and using them as a benchmark for doing things so much better. So Russ, are you ready to kind of first, maybe I want to hear, before we get into the AMA, can you describe a little bit of what your vision for Vine is? You started this app back in, obviously almost over a decade ago, and then it went through a transition with acquisition with Twitter. You did tremendous work there. You've done some businesses after that as well. So tell us about your vision with Vine, its revival and the movement a little bit, and then we get into the AMA questions.
Sure. I started Vine in 2012 with my co-founder Dom Hoffman and Colin Kroll. We sold the company before we launched publicly to Twitter. Almost immediately after launch in January of 2013, it became a success, like a prime example of some of the most creative things that you can do on your phone. People flocked to the app because they were curious about our creation tool. The ability to make a really succinct video with edits that looped with sound was really inspiring to a whole generation of creators. We saw musicians break out of the platform, comedians, filmmakers, artists, and it really did impact the world of digital media and culture in a positive way. Over time, it reached around 200 million people as a feature within Twitter, as a standalone app, and became the blueprint for other social media companies to integrate video into their platforms, with Instagram being a prime example. As the industry evolved and social media apps added new features and started delivering new ways to create, Vine unfortunately fell behind. It became increasingly difficult to compete with the incumbents, and I take the blame for this one. I think we built the wrong features. Over time, we neglected certain use cases that people were clearly interested in, whether it was music or lip sync videos or vertical video, longer video, creating an algorithm to allow people to connect with new creators that they otherwise wouldn't be able to discover just through search and revines. Ultimately, Twitter decided to deprioritize Vine and shut the doors, I think in 2017. And more recently, there has been quite a bit of buzz about bringing Vine back. When meeting Elon and talking to him about Vine, it's very clear that he loves Vine. A lot of ex-staffers love Vine. Some even joke about, I don't even know if it's a joke, that they joined Twitter or X solely to revive Vine. So my vision is really to anticipate and to see the revival of Vine. And I think now is a really great time, especially in the face of large platforms like TikTok and national security concerns and concerns around its impact on the youth's mental health, creating opportunities for creators to jump in, start making video content for the first time, and becoming known for their creativity, for their performance, for their talents. The coin was not planned weeks in advance. It came together pretty spontaneously. It came shortly after Elon hinted about possibly reviving Vine, right? We're looking into it. And this buzz plus the internet's appetite for meme coins, it made it a ripe moment.
That makes a lot of sense, and I it's really refreshing, because I think as a person that's worked with a lot of startups in the technology capacity, it's very difficult to accept the things that were wrong. And I think it's really interesting for you to see and say that some of the features that you identified, especially the music integrations, I think with Musical.ly like really took off, and then Instagram started doing that. I think that is quite a bit of the consensus that Vine features lag behind. Of course, monetization was another big aspect. I'm sure we'll talk about those things too, but it's good for me personally to see that's a recognition on your part, and that's something that I guess obviously with X integration is gonna continue to move forward. Okay, so your vision here, the way I perceive it and the way I understand it, is to look into all different ways to ensure Vine's revival, right? Would that summarize it? Okay.
Yeah. I find
Perfect.
that the coin and crypto specifically is a mechanism to gather the largest possible community, to increase the engagement, to increase the conversation, to really bring attention to the value of Vine's revival. And I think the ball is moving forward. There
Yeah.
has been tons of increased engagement. You rattled off a couple of those stats. I had no idea it was actually that significant.
This is through Lunar Crush. Anybody can check this publicly. I didn't just go like draw it up with a crayon. 56,367%. And it doesn't even go to the top. Increase in mentions. The mentions went up to 22,587 on that specific day, with engagements up to 43.69 million. It would have been fun if it was 42.69 million, just for the culture, of course. It's remarkable what we have. You're back on screen now. I just wanted to show that chart. It clearly worked to get the conversation going.
Worked. It is working. And I think what we're seeing is the bringing together of two communities. There's crypto, and there are people that are passionate about Vine, that remember its legacy. And when those two forces join, it seems like the movement is unstoppable.
So Russ, now that we've shared that information, let's get into the AMA part. I know we've been going already at 25 minutes. I want to make sure that we have enough time to get everyone's questions answered. Before I get into that, Russ, I want to give you some context as to why this is important. I know we've had some conversations, but I wanted to, as I mentioned to you, I want to have a lot of this conversation live so that it's authentic. What's happened in crypto, especially recently with Libra, with Melania, with so many other situations, with Hayden Davis situation coming out, is what was suspected to be happening behind the scenes is now in our face. It's funny that what's happening with Doge, with Elon and the government side of things, with finding government waste, and it was like, we know government is not efficient. Like that was confirmed with now finding evidence. And that same thing happened with the whole Hayden Davis situation. We're also finding that it's not just insiders. It's also a situation where you have platforms themselves, like the founder, the person running Meteora, had to step down because it pretended like he didn't know what was going on. As we have discussed, that the absence of information leads to that PTSD, that are we also getting rugged? So we all saw when the Vinecoin was released and you came on those spaces and you articulated your vision, and that this was not just nothing against coins like Unicorn Fart Dust and all these other coins. They're a moment in time. 13 years later, you can't even imagine thinking about them unless they make past the 0.00001% exception of coins like Doge. So when you brought Vine out, it was something that had substance, right? And it had something that had a movement that creators could get behind. It felt real, and you felt real, and people wanted to bank on you. And when that related to a certain set of events, and then the communication not being in line with what Web3 expects, and I know there's reasons for that we'll get into it, it started to go back into those circles that, Russ, you're taking advantage of us. Are you taking advantage of us? Is this another one of those things? Are we idiots again? So the hope here is to answer those questions and for people to be able to make those informed decisions accordingly. Does that make sense? Why people are sort of freaking out, and some are still bullish because they have faith, but there's definitely a segment of community that needs to be acknowledged is concerned, and rightfully so. Does that make sense, Russ?
It does, yes.
Okay, great. So the first category of question I want to get into is the launch of the coin and related matters. So let's just kind of start off with, I know you mentioned this briefly, but let's kind of get into like what prompted the launch of Vinecoin and how exactly did it happen? Like, were you sitting there on Pump.fun, filling in the details and launching it? What was the process like? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So as I was thinking about launching the coin, I reached out to some people that I know that are very into crypto to help give me advice and guide me. And I learned about a really ugly website called Pump.fun. And I love ugly websites. They're, it's like you can trust them. It felt super unpolished and very raw. It looked like an engineer slapped it together, and something that worked really well for its intended purpose. As I started putting the coin together, put it on Pump.fun, people started reaching out to me. Oh, is this really yours? Are you really doing this? And at the time, as I was like putting the website together, writing the mission, and ensuring that the logo and all the copywriting was exactly how I wanted, I started getting messages from people like, hey, this thing is gaining traction. It's now at this market cap. And 5 minutes later, dude, it's at this market cap. And I thought to myself, okay, wow, like I haven't even tweeted about this. I'm still kind of thinking if this is something I want to get behind. And I ultimately did. I sent the tweet out. Almost immediately, I started getting messages. People think you got hacked. People think this is not real. Post a video, post something. So I was like, oh, wow, okay. I didn't think that that's what the perception would be. So I put up a GIF. People didn't like the GIF. I put up a video. And I think slowly people started to realize, oh, like this is a real project by Russ. This is something that's actually happening. In the response, the messages were mixed. Some were very excited. Some were like, holy shit, I'm like, this is going gangbusters. Thank you so much, Russ. You're amazing. Thank you. Whereas others were saying like, hey, what's going on? People are selling. Is this going to end up completely destroyed? What are you doing? I have 5% of the supply in my dev wallet. I got a message suggesting that I either LP the coins, the dev coins, or straight up lock them. So I was pointed to a website, I forget the name of it, that made it really easy to just lock the coins until a certain date. I did that in a show of good faith to the community. I'm not doing this to make a quick buck. I'm not doing this to pump and dump and just run off into the sunset. That I'm a co-founder of Vine. I really love what we built. I love the impact it's had on society. I was heartbroken to see it shut down, and I just want to see it back. It's in my personal interest to have it back. Just like to be able to say, yeah, this thing still exists and it is thriving. My hope for locking the coins was just to show the community, like, I'm in this for the long run. I will continue locking those tokens until Vine is released. I'm committed. I'm here to stay with the community. The community's not going anywhere. The coin's not going anywhere. It's the coin's here to stay, and I'm here to stay.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So it started with like an idea and kind of going through, getting some help. As far as locking the coin and all those activities, did you learn to do that, or did your friends help you with that were assisting? Like how did that process work? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, someone reached out to me and said, hey, you should LP or lock the tokens. And I get a lot of messages and DMs on Telegram, and every once in a while a good idea pops up and I respond to it. This was an idea that someone sent me, and I asked, like, what's the best way to do this? They walked me through it. I had to verify that the website I was using was legit. I've never heard of it previously. I think I did it right. It's the coins are locked until 4:20 at 4:20 p.m. And if Vine is still not released, then I will at 4:21 lock them again.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Let's get into some of the other questions. So the summary of the item so far was that it launched, throughout this process because you had an idea after, the Elon tweet. You were looking into it. You got some help. You got some help in launching the coin. Then there was some conversation around getting the tokens to be locked that were in your possession, and then you went through that process and locked the token. So I noticed specifically one of the questions that came out is like, how long did you think, like from the time that the coin was launched on Pump.fun, which is the platform it was launched on, how long did it take from there to actually make it to be traded on a DEX? Like on Pump.fun, obviously people can trade, and then you have to reach a certain bonding curve milestone, and then you can start trading on the DEX. Are those things that you know of, that you tracked, or did somebody help you with that, or you have no idea?
Yeah, I have no idea what that process is. What I do know is that shortly after it was put on Pump.fun, that it immediately started to gain traction. And I didn't see a delay. I didn't see any I didn't see a delay between when I put it on Pump.fun to when it was available to actually start engaging with.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I have these numbers because the questions came, so I gathered some of these numbers too. It took 4 minutes and 41 seconds for the Pump.fun bonding curve to be met, and it was met in 157 transactions only. So it was very, very quick that this occurred. And this was done the launch occurred on January 23rd at 12:17 a.m. UTC. And within 4 minutes, 41 seconds, it was completely done, which is not uncommon for popular coins on Pump.fun. So indication was already there that, this is a popular coin. And at that time, if you followed, there were, dozens of other Vine coins that were being launched as well. The other thing I want to ask you before we get to the question that the community asked about is because this context is important, is that you tweeted about it on January 23rd. I'm giving UTC times here, January 23rd at 1:24 UTC, 1:24 a.m. UTC. So that's going to be evening time or across Europe and stuff. Again, the time is January 23rd, 1:24 UTC, which is 67 minutes after the coin was launched. And during this time, already $100 million in volume had occurred. And some of this volume came from wallets that were related to, not all of it obviously, related to and created around the same time as Dev Wallet, funded from Coinbase, and involved in early trading. So this was one of the questions the community was asking about. What do you know about this? Do you know anything about this? If you don't know about this, like, what is your thoughts on it? And then I have a chart that I can share that provides some perspective on this as well.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with these details. I haven't looked back at the network and the logs around this. Yeah, I was talking to people about getting help and how to create the coin. Pump.fun looked like a really simple option for me. It's just super easy to use. And from there I started getting messages like, hey, this thing is blowing up. And I started getting numbers about the market cap increasing. And at that point I started to strongly consider, like, okay, let me send a tweet. Let's kickstart this movement. Let's get this community organized.
Okay, very sweet. So basically, you're saying you're not familiar with those wallets. I do want to share something because that trajectory is somewhat similar to what happens with a lot of these pump and dump coins, but there's a point where Vine stands out. And I want to highlight that here for a second. So this chart is indicating from the time that it was available for trading on Radium to basically the first 30 minutes, which is when the tweet occurred. So right around this time, if you zoom into this, that's about, you can see on the top left here, that's about $100 million in volume. First of all, that is already unorthodox. That indicates that there was tremendous demand for this. This is where we talk about the record-breaking numbers. But furthermore, there was, of course, sniping of this token, as we can see on chain. We don't need to ask anybody of this. The sniping was available. What we don't know, as Russ has mentioned, what we didn't know is if it was related in any way to any activity that he knew about, and he stated that he does not. However, the point that I want to relate to that's factual is that most coins at this point die out. So typically, these charts look very, very small right now. But typically you have this massive candle up where it looks like somebody bought all the way up to $87 million and it came all the way back down, crashing to $4 million worth, right? So from 97 million right here to $4 million worth, all the way back down. And then afterwards is when the organic activity occurred. And so a lot of the initial snipers had exited at this point, at least from the data that I have looked at. That's something perhaps that Russ, you might not have known. But this specific element is quite bullish because it indicates that the folks that were going to be dumping on the community seem to be largely already out. There are obviously some of those initial holders that are holding a moon back, so to say, but typically that's what deters a coin from moving forward. And most coins actually, if you look at the charts, don't even proceed forward from that. So with that, let me proceed forward to the next set of questions that the community has presented. So one was around these wallets. So the next one is talking about an IP related thing. But before I get to that question, I want to share some facts and then let's get your thoughts. So within the first day, I actually thought the numbers were a lot less. Okay, so what you're looking at here, you can go look at this data yourself as well. I always like to show people how you can get the data. Go to CoinGecko, go to the Vine specific market chart, then go to historical data. And in historical data, if you scroll down, you can click show more. This data is easy to get, unlike some of the other data points that are not as easy. So in the first day, while remaining, so this is the market cap that it had, average market cap throughout that period. Closing market cap was about 150 million. It did $1.93 billion in volume. At first, I was looking at the numbers from the third day where it was $1.35 billion while remaining at a $400 million market cap. So this was quite unorthodox because the only token that has reached these levels is the Trump coin, the President of the United States coin. And by the time it reached these volume numbers, it had already crossed $1 billion. So there was tremendous short interest, as we had indicated before. There's a reason I'm providing this data, because one of the things that is clear is that it made a lot of noise. We've also looked at the Lunar Crush chart, where we can see that there was immense demand all over X. It was trending all over X. So this means that people knew that this coin is live. It is highly unlikely. I mean, we don't know for sure, but it is highly unlikely that at this point, Elon and X and others, like you could not have missed this, right? So the question becomes that people are asking is that if X owns the IP rights to Vine and they own the trademark to Vine and they have a precedence with, there's videos about this with Dom Hoffman specifically starting, Vine 1 and Vine 2, and that converted into Byte and other factors, right? So there's examples of this where he launched it and then he stepped back from it, saying that there are issues, legal fees, and other elements and factors. So the community wants to know that what is your thought as to why X has not come to you yet to say, hey, Russ, take down the site, stop the coin. What is your thought on that? Because the precedence is there that the legal team would be after you and say, don't use this trademark.
Yeah. Look, I don't want to get into a legal discussion about trademarks and copyright. I can use the Vine logo. I did. From my conversations with X staff, a lot of folks are super excited by what's happening. You just can't knock the engagement, right? It's positive engagement. Granted, there's been some friction along the way. There have been, just like a lot of nasty comments, but also a lot of positive comments. And it's clear that people really love Vine. They love seeing the Vine logo. They love seeing the Vine logo in the exchanges that they use. They love seeing it on the internet. They love seeing it on videos. This positive sentiment is what's keeping this going.
Okay, yeah, that's actually a lot of what the folks that were bullish on Vine in the early days thought too. So the next question in relation to that, the summary of your item with IP trademark is that you can use the Vine logo and hence they haven't come after you. So the next, these are the segments around the launch of the coin. That were the question. The next segment is around the messaging. So for messaging, the questions are related to what happened to your X account after the initial test posts of Vine. Do you know that it was broken? Specifically, for example, I have to show you the tweet so that you can answer it in an educated way. So this tweet and others, for example, after you had posted a few test posts, you would go into this tweet. When you click the comment, the primary tweets would be disappeared. A lot of people thought the account was suspended because your tweets were not showing up. And then all of a sudden, one day they started showing up. Do you have any insight as to what happened there and how did it get fixed?
Yeah, so that night I remember posting Vine videos. I was looking at how Vine videos looked in the X feeds and how they looped. A big part of what we strive to do with the Vine app and the Twitter integration at the time was to make the videos play beautifully in timelines. And the loop was actually a really important thing for us because creators really use that loop to tell new kinds of stories and to create media that previously was impossible without Vine. I started noticing issues with my account at night, and I was looking at my posts across my mobile devices, across different browsers, and yeah, there was definitely an issue, a technical issue. So over the next week, I was working with the X team to remedy the account. I was observing quietly what was happening in the community, and I saw quite a bit of positive interaction and engagement within the community. And at the time, I thought, okay, maybe this is a moment where I can bifurcate the community between crypto and Viners and creators and people that love social media and digital media and art and filmmaking and comedy. And that's when I decided to create the Telegram group. But now, and like learning how the community has formed, that may have actually been a mistake. It's clear that this is one big community and not two communities.
That makes a lot of sense. I think it's easy to look in hindsight into some mistakes, but perhaps one of the most bullish things there that I understood, and please confirm this for me, is that you mentioned that you were testing the loops and testing the functionality of the experience for Vine, and that caused some technical issue, and then you had to work with the X team to resolve the issue to fix your profile. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm not sure if my uploads and those tests actually caused the issue, so I can't speak to exactly what those glitches were or what the limitations were. But I was working with the X team for the better part of a week to fix it, and I was not posting to really help nurture the community on Telegram and make myself present there and establish some of the norms and the community, the community ethos in Telegram.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, that's exciting for me to hear. People are asking, the next question is that, what was the intention behind sharing the 6-second square, the test 1, test 2, test 3, and test posts? Who's advising you to post these? Because these did come at critical volume levels where either the support on the chart was about to break or resistance was not breaking. So these are examples of some of the tweets that were provided as the example for where these questions are originating from. What's your response to that?
Yeah, I was purely looking at uploading Vine videos. I was not doing technical analysis on the coin or charts or anything like that. Again, I'm not a crypto native founder. I design software, I build digital products, and for me it was purely testing videos in X timelines and just looking at how they behaved, how they performed. It's very clear that there's certain behaviors, especially for short videos, where if you full screen a short video or you go into it, it'll play twice and then transition to the next video. Sometimes videos don't play with sound unless you unmute them. So these were all the things that I was looking at.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And I think the next set of questions, I'm combining a few questions together in the interest of time and try to get them through as well. But then I'll comment on what I have learned in talking to you about the disconnect between Web 2 and the crypto community perceptions, right? So you mentioned in Telegram that you were looking into the Super Bowl ad. A lot of people might not realize that with your previous company, HQ Trivia, you actually had managed to get a free Super Bowl ad. So you mentioned you were looking into it. And then later on, you came back and mentioned that, it's going to have a cost of $2.1 million and there wasn't enough inventory. And that was interpreted, as I had mentioned to you in my initial concern, by a lot of people that something was imminent, that you had something to present, perhaps an app. So that was the case. And then there's some other questions that I'll couple together. But I think you had an interesting response to this in terms of what you provided to me and what your intention was. So can you perhaps let me know, what was the thinking behind suggesting the Super Bowl ad was there? And specifically, what were you going to advertise if you were able to get the spot? Because that's something a lot of people have a question about.
So the Super Bowl was coming up on a Sunday, shortly after the launch of the Vine coin. We were in the Telegram group, and I started getting flashbacks to our Super Bowl ad for HQ Trivia. And for those that are not familiar, HQ Trivia was a live mobile game show, which I co-founded, that went super viral in 2017, 2018. And we were able to secure a free Super Bowl ad through a partnership with NBC. So I guess I was spoiled. I feel like we deserve free Super Bowl.
You've done it once. Why not, right?
Yeah. And I wanted to do it for the Vine community. Wanted to make a 6-second Super Bowl ad, probably one of the shortest Super Bowl ads for Vine and for Vinecoin. And the goal was to help bring everyday Americans into our movement, to kind of break out of the crypto world, which, yes, is filled with really smart people across all walks of life. The community does tend to be more technical, more finance focused, more focused on memes and some of these other things. But the Super Bowl has national reach. Everyone's watching the Super Bowl on that Sunday. And I thought that it would be such a big treat for the Vine community to see a 6-second video, right, square on your flat screen, and that would just be a moment to celebrate. When the folks that we were talking to at the media company, they were completely open to working out a deal, but they couldn't give it to us for free. And I said, all right, if we have to pay for it, we're not going to do it. It was disappointing. I think the community was disappointed. And yeah, I think in retrospect, it probably, maybe I shouldn't have said anything. I was just excited. And yeah, that's not to say that there won't be opportunities for big advertising pushes and, seeing Vine in the real world, across America. As we move forward.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. One thing that is interesting here, and Russ, this will connect back into how the crypto community interprets this. Hopefully one day there will be a Sphere ad on the Las Vegas Fair. That would be really cool to see, maybe a compilation of wines. But another thing that's related to this, and then I want to talk about the disconnect, and we can move on to the other parts of the call here too, is that people are having a really hard time with believing the listing on Kraken and other exchanges having an ad hoc listing, specifically because it doesn't happen in crypto. With very exceptional coins, it happens that have, like Trump, for example, did not have to go and get these listings, right? And so it's not as much of an issue with so many other coins, but specifically with the Kraken listing, because they also had a very specific utility-based description. And so first, if you can address that did you provide them the description? And if not, if you did not provide them the description, if that is your answer, to rest the community's concerns, because I can see from their perspective why it is very hard for them to believe, because it's just like, it's an anomaly. It's like getting struck by lightning twice. If that is the case, would you be open to utilizing some of the connections we have to get Kraken to basically own up to that? Yeah, we just made up this. We may have had some communication, but we made up the description or something of that sort.
So the Kraken listing, mind you, I have not heard of Kraken before launching this coin. I've seen OKX. They do quite a bit of advertising. I'm very friendly with the folks that run the Tribeca Film Festival. And I remember the step and repeat at the Tribeca Film Festival showing the OKX logo pretty much everywhere behind every celebrity. And I love the OKX logo. It's just beautifully simple, super iconic, very like high contrast logo. And that's pretty much all I knew of OKX. At the time, when shortly after launching the coin, I did start getting introductions to exchanges from people, and I didn't really know how to handle those conversations. I didn't. It's like, okay, you want to list it? Go ahead. What do I need to do? I learned what market makers were. I learned that it's not easy getting a listing, and I didn't understand the value of getting a listing. It was like, okay, well, there's Phantom Wallet. You can use that, and that's pretty easy. There are tons of tutorials online on how to buy a coin using that. I didn't think there was, much value in getting a listing on an exchange besides just like, oh, you have a badge of honor. You're, listed on this exchange. And it's amazing how, like you don't really know who you're talking to on Telegram or DMs. Like, most people have super cryptic usernames with alphanumeric characters, and like anime avatars is like, okay, you claim you're from Kraken, you're asking me to pay some money to get listed. I ignore those. And then like, okay, 3 days later, it's listed on Kraken. So not involved at all, had nothing to do with it. And the thing they posted, which I'm not sure if they actually posted it or if somebody just like changed the text using like Web Inspector and took a screenshot of that. And if they did post it, I think we should call them out, tell them to come forward and disclose where they got that, why they posted it, because it was not something that I had sent them at all.
Okay, I love that. I think so. This is the kind of radical transparency that crypto communities crave, and this is the kind of transparency that I felt that you were going to be able to provide, and I'm glad that you are providing that. A couple of things. I want to welcome you to the crypto space. Obviously, in this journey, there's going to be a lot of learnings. Like, there's probably going to be people DMing you with my profile, with my same picture, with my same name, but except for the I, it's going to be the shorter one or the shorter L or something. So just be very, very careful in this space. And interesting to see how the process is. And I think for those that are asking this specific question, I think was submitted by, I can't remember the individual, but shout out to them for asking this. I'll tag you later. But so your question was the Kraken listing done by Russ or not? It would be great to have Kraken own up to it, because they clearly provided information. And I don't think they will mind owning up to it, because it's not a big deal. They listed something, they got the information from somewhere, and then they corrected it. And if they did not, then obviously somebody doctored that image. And if that lets the community have some peace, then I think it's well worth doing. These are the little bit of things that go a long way for the community. The final question on the messaging side, before we close the messaging side, this is how I'll kind of loop everything around. There are two final questions, actually. So one of them is that there was a Telegram poll. I didn't see this personally, but it's a question from the community, so I have to ask this. So there was a Telegram poll where people were voting like something like what's coming next, what's happening next, like the next day. And you had voted on a Binance listing on there. This was the claim. First, did you actually vote on it? And did you realize how that would be perceived, or did you not realize that?
Yes, I did vote on it. I voted on it before I signed an NDA with Binance.
Okay, got it. Okay, well, wow. Okay, I don't even know how to handle that. First of all, so you did vote on it, and you voted on it before you signed an NDA with Binance. So there's your answer, everyone. I'm at a loss of words here. Very excited and bullish, and looking for positive things ahead. Okay, so let's come back to the next question, Russ, which relates to the theme of this, right? Okay, so this is one of the difficult questions that will close out this session, and then I wanna kind of get your thoughts on what you learned with the process. So one of the individuals that was removed from the space was Wise Admiral. I'm sure you know about him. And to be frank with you, in the early days of running spaces, I'm sure you heard me on spaces too. In the early days, I was quite active with others. I was nowhere near as active as some of the hosts who spend so much of their time, and kudos to them. And Wise was one of them in the early days. I had great conversations with him. He was provided some information by a community member, Crypto Rex, and I'm not here to say whether I agree with this or that, but he was removed from the Telegram group for providing critical information. And as I have shared with you in our private conversations, that in crypto, which is decentralization, maxi, freedom of speech, like don't shut my voice down, that is the recipe for basically lighting fuel to the fire of FUD instead of addressing it head on. So the question that was asked is, how do you feel about how that was handled? And looking back at it, would you have handled it differently? And perhaps what have you learned from this whole scenario holistically, with how things in crypto are perceived? Like your vote on Binance is not just a vote, like you're saying Super Bowl, looking into Super Bowl ad, and then just transparently sharing that can't do it because it's expensive. In Web 2 is very normal, but in Web 3 it's like, it's a make or break thing. So can you comment on the handling of a few administrative things, what you've learned from that, and then overall messaging, perhaps what you've learned and how you feel about it? I think the community is very interested in that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my intent with Telegram was to give crypto experts a place to hang out and to talk and to share. It started getting super messy really early, and I realized, okay, like we need to moderate this thing. This thing is open 24/7. Let's get some moderators in. And I get tons of messages from folks with weird avatars and weird cryptic usernames. I don't respond to those. It's hard to respond to anyone that just looks like a cartoon character. I'm not knocking this culture. Like, I come from this culture. I come from 90s and early 2000s internet, where as designers and engineers, we had our own avatars, we had our own aliases. I was clearbolt.com. You can look at the Wayback Machine to see some of my my portfolio websites. I started getting requests to moderate the community, moderate the Telegram group 24 hours. So looked at folks that were European time zones, West Coast, and so on. There was an initial set of US-based moderators, and I found other moderators in Europe that could stand up to this role. My view on this is just like, let the moderators do their thing. I don't control who gets banned or muted. I know this person that we're talking about right now was removed from the moderator chat and not from the main Telegram group. I can't speak to if it was the right decision or not. I'm not sure what was posted. We may need some better community guidelines for within the moderation group, maybe even for the Telegram group. We may need to just blow up the Telegram group entirely. This is a community that is aligned on one particular vision and mission, and maybe there's just one place for the community to gather. It's probably on X. I'm not saying this is something that we're going to do, but the more I think about it, the more I realize this is one community. And, these kind of day-to-day decisions around who's getting banned, who's getting muted I think it's kind of it's out of my control, and I don't make these decisions day to day. I trust the moderators to moderate themselves. And I think the tools are in place and the permissions are in place wherein folks can pull people in and out depending on the situation. I think it's super important to hold space like this and to have conversations and to ask questions. Again, I'm not crypto native. I understand now that the crypto community needs very specific answers to certain things. So I'm here for it. And I hope this is perceived as a step by me in a new direction, just around communication and transparency.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, personally, being in crypto for a while, I think this is you're being very transparent. You're answering the difficult questions. I'm not holding back. I'm trying to be respectful on behalf of the community. I guess in that light, I wanna ask you: are you open to getting some guidance and feedback about and making adjustments that are necessary for the community to continue to thrive, whether it's related to administration, moderation, technical elements, and whatnot? Are you open to those things?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm an open book. I'm learning. I get that this world is super deep. It's very technical. It's finance driven. I am very excited and interested in crypto. I have my Boomer Coinbase wallet that I've been using since 2013. But I do just want to mention the moderator community. It's grown outside of my direct involvement. It started with just a handful of folks, and new people have been invited into it. So I just want to shout out AG, Callie, Samuel Grubbs, Megs, Tim, Just Vibing, Jules, Indetto. I'm going to keep going. Robert Etzel, Tyler Malley, Backwoods Vine, Joshua, Gabe, Unwise Ape with the gorilla emoji, Bat Dad, S, Rylan, Fabian, Touche, Coundelich, 3 more, Soul Goodman, Quark, and Vine Tipperbot. 2/3 of these people I have never seen before, met before, but they're all vibing so well. I don't think there are issues with moderation. I think it's a healthy group. I think the team welcomes new participants. But if you have insights into a better way to handle this, I'm open.
Okay, that's great to hear, and I'm sure everyone appreciates the shout outs too. So now we're gonna move to the second last segment. We're going for about an hour and 9 minutes now, so we're doing pretty good on time. And then the next segment is the app, which is what everybody has been asking about, but there were other questions too before we got to that. So we're going to get into that. One of the questions before we get into that, people are asking a lot, are there other Vine related NDAs that you have signed, such as one you mentioned for Binance, that may be preventing you from sharing some information about its development or anything like that?
No.
Okay, great. Nice and short answer. The next question is, have you met Elon and spoken to him about bringing back Vine?
Yes.
Okay, great. So next question is, why is X so indecisive regarding Vine? For example, we've had X engineers confirm that when the video tab was rolled out, there was conversation about naming it Vine, but apparently it didn't happen. What could be the reason, and what can help change their mind?
Yeah, look, I can't speak to the X roadmap. I think, it's best for me to just point you to what's publicly available. Taha, you did a great job in highlighting some of these tweets and posts by X staff, and we really should take it for face value. The excitement to bring back Vine is real. X staff have clearly shown and said that this is something they're interested in. Some X staff have even said, maybe jokingly, that the reason that they joined X was to bring back Vine. And once it's back, they'll quit. And my question to them is like, well, what are you doing to bring back Vine? What are you doing to expedite the process, to get us a timeline, to get us a roadmap that we're asking for? The staff at Twitter was drastically reduced. It was made more efficient. It was made more productive. It's primarily engineer driven now. And I think this is the right way to build the future of X. And look, there's a roadmap that's been put out. X just put out an amazing version of Grok that is surpassing the existing AI tools. And we should see more developments in the future. Again, I can't speak to on behalf of X, but I think the engagement we're seeing from X staff is incredibly positive. The ball is moving forward.
Yeah, that's seems to be the case, and it's great to hear. One of the questions in regards to the coin specifically, and I want to give you an example of a platform, Simulacrum. This is a platform that allows you right now to send payments on a certain network just to your Twitter handle, right? So this is possible today. So the question that's there is that while the Vine coming back, let's say the short form videos on X are called Vines, but let's say that the Vine coin is not integrated in that. There's already precedents showing that you can connect X usernames, which we perceive will be Vine usernames, to be able to provide payment methods, to be able to tip creators, to be able to do different things. Obviously the first goal is to push for everything Vine integrated into X, but if that takes time or if it's going a different direction, are you looking into or open to ideas where the Vine coin can still support creators in monetization in ways that would be still utilizing X's platform, but in ways that are more decentralized?
Yeah, 100%. We innovated in short form video on mobile. We created the precedent for a whole generation of short form video apps and creativity on the internet. And I think we can do the same for monetization. We control the trajectory of this coin as a community, and it's really our decision and how it ultimately gets implemented and how. So if it doesn't become a part of X's integration to Vine, there's still the opportunity and desire by me to turn it into something real and tangible. And the community has spoken very clearly what they're looking for in that sense. And I think, the world is moving in this direction, and a lot of payments and monetization problems can be solved with this infrastructure. Small example, it's like with HQ Trivia, we gave over $7 million in prizes to winners. We had an integration with PayPal. Love PayPal, but there were many limitations. There were fees, there were minimums, it took forever in many cases, verification. So when you do have centralized payment systems, it comes with a load of friction, and it's harder to scale. And I think this coin can solve that. But again, I'm not making promises as to future integrations. It's more like my desire to innovate within creator monetization as a next
Okay,
step.
that makes a lot of sense. And I think one thing you mentioned is that it's up to us as a community. Does that mean that this is a CTO, community takeover coin, and a community coin, or does it mean that you're leading it and you're setting the vision for where this is going to go?
No, not CTO. It's not a community coin. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. We're doing this together. I think we like what I can do alone is like, okay, cool, good. I can get some things done, but what we can do together is much much, much bigger.
That makes sense. You're using the power of the community together and making a real movement. That makes sense. So let's talk about a few more questions related to the app. So this is related to the waitlist. So the question is, what is your intention with the waitlist? Is it another metric to show how people are interested in the Vine app, or functionality revival, or is there some other plan? People want to know about the waitlist.
Yeah. Email list or newsletter sign up just didn't sound as good. Like people are waiting for the Vine app to return. So having another channel to communicate with the community, especially the most loyal community members, was important to me. It's hard to really distinguish between people that are super committed and loyal on X or in TG, but folks that actually put their contact info to become part of the movement and to get those pieces of information and those invites directly, like that speaks volumes. And the list is still growing. And you don't have to be a supporter of Vinecoin or to have a bag. You can ask your friends at school and at work and your family to sign up. We haven't published how big that list has gotten, but maybe that's something that we do eventually do, just so people can see the growing interest in the project and the movement.
That would be so cool to see. So this is related to, what was the app that was shown in the beta Vimeo link published on vineco.in/beta? Was it a mock-up of sort? Was it an actual app? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so that's a prototype that I had created for a vision of what's possible. It was put up on Vimeo as a hidden listing. It was not meant to be shown to the public at the time, but the community was so engaged and like really just like digging into everything. They found it. There were actually like 4 more videos of the prototype of this kind of future vision. The goal of that was to get X developers excited about what's possible. Simply, it just was. It was discovered prematurely. It's since been taken down, and yeah, I think it's worked. That video did its job. It did get the attention of the right people.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. The other question related to that is, are you open to like having some sort of like a GitHub where people can add feature ideas and roadmaps and upvote on them to potentially also provide feedback to the X developers of what they really want to see in Vines as it's integrated in X or the app itself?
Yeah, look, you don't need my permission to go ham on this mission.
So there we have it, guys. Just do it. You can just make things, right?
It's in motion.
Sorry,
right?
go ahead.
The engagement we're seeing from X staff is super positive. There will be trolling, there will be shit posting, but that's just increased engagement. It's amazing. There are people at X that are talking about Vine for the first time. There's some people at X that didn't even know that Vine was a thing, right? It may have been like, generation prior. And now they're talking about it. Now they're discussing features. Now they're discussing specific rollout plans. They're discussing more details. And that is super positive. That is exactly how the Vine revival will go down. And this community will be the catalyst to it.
I love that. That's great. So we're coming close to the end of time. So I want to make sure that we get through the last few questions, and then we have time for like the path forward and action items, so we can be respectful of the time that we have blocked out here. So the questions that end with the app and the action items perhaps as well that you'll talk about at the end. What is your expected behavior and milestones the community needs to achieve? What do you believe concretely needs to happen if such milestones are achieved to give it a chance to like, all right, like these people are crazy, they want Vine back, we should call X short videos Vines, or we should integrate Vine or launch a Vine app? What is it from your perspective?
Yeah, I think if we can help nurture more creativity in the community, that would be very positive for the mission. There's a lot of activity just around like replying with, hashtag Vine to certain posts, being this kind of like persistent nagging voice, bring back Vine, bring back Vine. But we really need to demonstrate what made Vine special. We need to demonstrate how the revival of Vine can come to fruition in the age of TikTok or potential TikTok's demise. I think the revival of Vine should look different and feel different than the original Vine. Short 6-second videos are great, but clearly people have demonstrated they want longer videos. They want vertical videos. They want to use AI. They want to use different creation tools and create different types of content, not just comedy and film and music, but a wide breadth of content. I think I'd love to see like our friends, friends, our family, coworkers jump in and become part of the mission, like normies or everyday Americans. Like this really appeals to a much broader audience. Vine at its peak had 200 million users. That is the size potential for this community. And if we think about viral software and that this community of however many strong we are now, like 100,000 or whatever, is the atomic network. And if everybody invites 1.1 people, then that becomes a viral runaway phenomenon.
Okay, great. So basically the call to action is to find ways to tell everybody about Vine, to get them to create content, to share the excitement. And those are the milestones that you're looking for, and to sort of create that effect, the virality effect, reaching 100,000 members that are excited about it and going beyond from there. Is that the gist?
It's about making this community a fun place to hang and participate. Some communities are, they revolve around a picture of a dog with a hat, and every response to a post about like, oh, what's up with this? It's like, oh, the dog has a hat. Like, that's great. That's fun. It's fun to celebrate memes and to become part of meme culture. But here, the mission, I think, is more palpable. Like there is an outcome that we're all looking for. There is a vision of the future that we all see that we want to force into existence. And I think that's more powerful than just having a bumper sticker or having a picture that people rally behind.
I agree. It's a lot more lasting and a lot more meaningful too. So the last two questions are related to what do you think about the ex-employees who are engaging with the community? Either they're bull posting about Vine survival, or those like Zach who like to shit post and troll, but also he's commented that he told his friends that he only joined X to bring Vine back and will probably quit after. What do you also think about these ex-employees saying that the coins need to be burned for Vine to come back? And it's not a lot. There's the questions from the community, so I'm asking that. That was one ex-employee. I also don't think that's a great idea, but if that's what it took, if it was like burn the coins, Vine comes back, don't burn the coins, would you be open to at least discussions around those areas? That's what community wants to know.
Burning the dev coins?
Yeah, I think that's what they're referring to.
No problem.
Okay, there you have it, guys. So if it comes to Vine coming back and it requires burning the dev coins is the last thing, then it will happen. I don't think that's a good idea because I think those can be used for rewarding the community, but that was a big part of the questions from the community. Okay, so we've gone through all the questions we can. Guys, I know that you probably have a lot of criticism for me, and I'm sorry if I didn't do a good job. If I did a great job, feel free to ask. But as I understand from Russ's post, perhaps there'll be more opportunities to ask questions as well. Russ has a time block and a meeting. We want to respect his time. Coming up, what I want to end this with is, Russ, I know we've talked about this briefly, but now with this, the community has a lot of information. There's different segments of the community, and I want to encourage the leaders in the community to put behind any of the sort of like, who's right, am I right, were you right, I told you so. Instead, focus on the betterment of bringing the community together, which means that some people will come and attack each other. Just rise above that. And as we rise above that, instead of spending time figuring out who's right, who's wrong, focus on the mission of Vine's revival, as Russ has mentioned. So Russ, what would that mission be? What should we be doing today? What should every single person, and including the leaders, be inspiring everyone to do across all of their spaces? Although their perspectives might be different. Some might be creators, some might be traders, some might be other folks. What should they be doing, Russ?
They should be doing it for the Vine. That's it. I don't know how else to say it. Yeah, just do it for
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I think a lot of people will love that. That's perfect. All right, Russ, I think we took a lot of questions. I'm sure people have so many more that I could not get to. But what do you think about this? Do you feel like you've heard the community? Do you feel that you're more informed, and do you feel excited about the future of Vine from here onwards, and Vine Coin specifically?
I think so, yeah. And you've been great, Taha. Thank you so much for keeping a level head and doing this in the most professional way with, with integrity. Like, you've really stepped up, and I think that I appreciate your approach, and I'm sure the community does as well. And I look forward to doing more stuff like this to the extent that I can, offer clarity and more insight into what's happening.
That's great. I think the community is really going to appreciate that. Thank you again, Russ, for taking the time to come out here. And yeah, this has been great. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Once again, if you are on X or on YouTube, make sure to like, repost, bookmark this on X. Make sure also on other platforms to such as YouTube to bookmark and like and comment to these so that as many people as possible can watch this stream and get updated. I apologize for that. I've never spoken to a founder as big as Russ, and you guys put a lot of trust in me. I hope I was able to do a good job, and the mistakes that I made, I will monitor them in the comments and learn and do better next time. Thank you again for trusting me with this, and let's do it for the Vine, like Russ said.